Hello, children. Welcome back to my classes. This is Manish Yadav, your English teacher. Today, I am going to make a video for the second episode for the chapter Silk Road. This chapter has been narrated by Nick Madleton. As we discussed in the last video about the journey from Rao to Kailash, Mount Kailash. The narrator was going there to complete his Korah. What happens in the way he describes beautifully. Let you know the next paragraph and its explanation. As hills started to push up once more from the rocky wilderness, we passed solitary drogbas tending their flocks. As hills started to push up one more from the rocky wilderness, we passed solitary drogbas, the people who lived in jungles. They were tending, looking after their flocks. Animals were grazing and they were looking after them. Sometimes men, sometimes women. We could see sometimes men and sometimes women. These well wrapped figures would pass and stare at our car. These well wrapped, well dressed figures would pause, stop for some time, and they would stare at our car, occasionally waving as we passed, and sometimes they shake their hands, saying goodbye or tata, when the track took us close to their animals. And as close as we were approaching towards their animals, the ship would take evasive action, veering away from the speeding vehicles. And they took actions, abrupt action, suddenly, and when it's, run away from their, speeding vehicle, our speeding vehicle, they were running from there. It seems that they are afraid of a speeding vehicle. We passed nomads, dark tents pitched in splendid isolation. We passed nomads, dark tents. There were so many tents pitched in, and we looked in splendid isolation, and the isolation was very splendid, tremendous. It was nice to see, usually with a huge black dog, a Tibetan Mastiff standing guard. And we could see at each gate of the tent a huge black dog. It was a Tibetan Mastiff. And these beasts would cock their great big heads when they became aware of our approach and fix us in their sights. And these dogs, Tibetan Mastiff, these are known as huge black dog, and they stand at the tent, every tent, and these animals would cock their eyes, their great big heads upward when they became aware of our approach. When they were aware, when they could notice our approach towards them, they raise their heads upward and fix us in their sights. And they looked constantly at us. As we continued to draw closer, they would explode into action. And as we approach towards them, as we approach, closer to them, they explode into action. And they come into action immediately, speeding directly towards us like a bullet from a gun and nearly as fast. and they speed up directly towards our car like a bullet, bullet of gun. As the gun's bullet moves directly with a great speed, they run towards us in the same way. What happens next? Let you know the explanation of next paragraph. Uh, Before starting, let me erase the underlines. These shaggy monsters. Shaggy, it is a type of hair. Monsters, blacker than the darkest night, and they are blacker than the darkest night, means they are blackest. Usually wore bright red colors and barked furiously with massive jaws. And they wear bright red collars around their neck. As you could see, dogs in our society, the owner of the dog make them to wear a red collar around their neck, and they barked furiously, very horribly, with massive jaws, opening their mouth, and they were completely fearless of our vehicle, and they are not afraid of our vehicle, of our car. They do not scare, shooting straight into our path, and they shoot straightly into our path without being scared. They do not scare of death, causing Satan to break and swerve. And it causes Satan to stop the car and then start again. What happens next? The dog would make chase of 100 meters or so before easing. Dog would make chase for 100 meters until they easing off, exhaustment. Until their exhaustment, they would make a chase. They would try to overtake our cars up to 100 meters, having seen us off the property. And it seems that they are looking after and protecting their properties. The Iceland was their property, and they were speeding as well as trying to overtake our car up to 100 meters before exhaustment. It was not difficult to understand why ferocious Tibetan Mastiffs became popular in China's imperial courts as hunting dogs. And anybody could notice. It is not difficult to understand why ferocious, expensive Tibetan Mastiffs became popular in China's imperial courts as hunting dogs. They are very famous and popular in the courts of China's imperial courts as hunting dogs. They are known as hunting dogs over there. Brought along the Silk Road in ancient times as tribute from Tibet. And these dogs had been brought from the Silk Road in the ancient time or the previous times as tribute from Tibet. By now, we could see snow-capped mountains gathering the horizon, and we could see the mountains, covering with snow and gathering on the horizon. And we entered a valley where the river was wide and, mostly closed with ice. And we saw a river over there. It was covered mostly with ice, snow, brilliant white. It was shining white and whitening and glinting in the sunshine. And it was shining, it was glinting when the rays of sun falls on the surface. The trail hugged its bank, twisting with the meanders as we gradually gained height and the valley sides closed in. The trail hugged its bank. The bank was very sharper, twisting with the meanders as we gradually gained height. And we were approaching towards, height, and the valley sides closed in, and the turns become sharper and the ride bumpier. And the the ride was very bumpier. It was very risky, and the turn, it all became sharper. Chetan now in third gear as we continued to climb, and we could climb up into third gear because it was very risky to ride on such a way where we were riding. Chetan just took third gear to continue his journey. Now, what happened next? Let me scroll up the paragraph. Before going further, let me erase the underlines on this screen so that it would not create confusions where I am reading. The track moved away from the icy river, laboring through steer slopes that spotted big rocks dotted with patches of bright orange lichen. And this is side when the narrator describes steeper slopes that spotted big rocks. And there were so many spotted big rocks dotted with patches of bright orange lichen, and they were shining into orange color when the rays of sun falling on the ground. And beneath the rocks, hunks of snow clung on the near permanent sheet. And beneath the rocks, hunks of snow, heap of snow were clanging on its near permanent sheet, and it was just at usual, and it was giving a permanent sheet. It was not melting, it was not converting into the water, so it was at it is in the same shape, snow. So it was covering the down part of rocks, so it was a permanent shade over there. I felt the pressure building up in my ears, and I could feel the pressure building up in my ears. Held my nose, snorted, and cleared them. I cleared and snorted my nose to feel better. We struggled around another tight bend, and again it was a tight bend, you know, slow, sloping elevation of the way of the road. It was a tight bend, and Chetan stopped. It was not easy to ride from there without investigating the way, and Chetan stopped from there. He had opened his door and jumped out of his seat before, and he came outside of the car. I realized what was going on. Snow, said Daniel. Daniel said that snow everywhere, snow. Snow is everywhere. And he too excited the vehicle and letting in a breath of cold air as he did so. And he followed Chetan, the driver of the car, and he took off the car immediately. That's it for this video. Next would be covered in the next video. That's it. Keep learning.